What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the one-on-one series presented by Fandoms Anonymous. This interview has been like 2.5 years in the making, but thanks to Corona and times of being able to sit down and be still, I finally got him here, James Reese. What's going on, James?
How are you, man? How are you?
Man, this is – I'm going to tell you how I found James Reese. Ever since I became full-fledged into the internet, like, first of all, I've been a Power Rangers fan forever. Of course, everybody that knows the channel knows it's Power Rangers all day, every day. But when I got deeply into the internet and started going to conventions and started seeing cosplays, it's like I started just digging into it more. Like, yeah, who else dresses up like Power Rangers? Let me see. Then here goes James Reese and his entire group of cosplayers, and they're hitting all the Power Rangers, from the male Rangers to the female Rangers, like killing it. And I'm like, I got to interview these guys because they are just killing it. And you'll be proud. I have been talking to a company to get my first Power Rangers cosplay. It is on the way. I'm getting the Green Ninja Ranger, even though we know it's not canon. It didn't happen. As you can see, Green Ranger's my guy. So that's the one I'm getting. So it's going down. But man, how are you today?
You know, I'm actually doing great. I live in California now. I started my cosplay journey out in Wisconsin back in 2013, and that took me to Texas, and now I'm out here in California. And, you know, I am just waiting, anticipating, holding my breath to be able to do my first California Expo as a California resident.
Awesome. So it hasn't been long since you moved to California. You've only been there a short while? Yeah.
We actually moved out here in February, which then they locked down the great state of California, March 17th. I know my apartment really intimately. People are like, how do you like the people? I'm like, the people in my grocery store are awesome.
Yeah. That guy always makes sure I got all the fresh grapes. So we're best friends now. So you got there just in time before they closed the doors to California.
Yeah, it was like, and I travel for work. So literally I spent a total of 2 weeks in California before they closed everything down. I was actually in Vegas the weekend that they announced that everything would be closing on Monday.
That's
awesome. So I was like, well.
Now we've got so much to talk about, from your work in physical and your work in cosplay and what you're doing now with more performance. We got a lot to break down. How did you get into everything? That's the first question I want to ask.
Yeah, so I mean, I was a performer before anything else, right? Okay. So I grew up singing and dancing, and I worked with the Moscow Ballet Company as a teen. Like in my youth, I was a competitive Irish dancer. I did a stint on Broadway. I did a couple national tours, and as I was starting to get like older in like the dance community or like the dance world, I started thinking about like, what would my life look like if I couldn't dance or sing anymore?
Right.
So that kind of took me down this path of like, well, you need to start like on a career. You know, you're getting older. You know, you don't have the same legs you used to.
They start looking at you crazy at auditions, like, his knees buckled.
Yeah. Whenever everyone goes, so who do you think the oldest person is here? And you just step back.
The buckled knees guy. I saw him stumble a little. He drunk last night.
Yeah.
We can't have that.
Yep. So it all started there, and it was actually because I decided, like in my head, I was like, well, I'm gonna stop touring, I'm gonna stop competing, I'm gonna stop dancing, and I'm gonna start doing all this other stuff. That I got like, I don't know, I got like tired. You know, I wanted to do something creative, and cosplay was the outlet. And my first cosplay was from the original Power Rangers movie, and that was the OG Black from the original Power Rangers movie, and it was just like, it just blew up from there.
Right.
It blew up from there. So that's how it all got started, from stage to cosplay.
Awesome. So it's because the first thing I saw you do was, of course, your cosplay, and had no idea you had a performance background. And I also saw you working with your physical group. You guys, the muscle fitness group, you guys were doing different. Now, tell me a little bit about that, because I always want to know, like, okay, I know he's at the gym all the time and he's working out with different people. So was that an actual business that you were running?
Yeah. Muscle Geek Physique. It was a 5-year venture. I actually just recently, like, not closed it down, but took a step out of it.
Right.
But I was training. I started training, and I was living in Wisconsin, and I wanted to do this cosplay. Right, I wanted to be a Power Ranger, but I didn't feel like a Power Ranger,
Right,
and I
right.
definitely didn't look
Right, right.
like a Power Ranger. So, and not that it's all about like your body, but I think you have to feel a certain way about yourself. So I wasn't feeling myself as like being like a hero. You know, I wasn't even a hero for myself yet. So it was actually funny because I started talking with a few girls who were competitive, like bodybuilders. And, you know, they have to like do like poses and things like that. And they're like, oh, well, you're a dancer. You could help us, you know, do some posing and everything. And I was like, sure. And that turned into like, oh, you should be a personal trainer. And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
So that turned into Muscle Geek Physique.
Right.
So it was all about like, I can do this for me, you know, and I can be a guiding light for other people who also want to feel good about themselves. It's not about having a six pack. It's not about being, you know, like 8% body fat. What it's truly about is feeling like a superhero inside.
Right.
And that's what going to the gym made me feel like. So that's where all of that went. It was actually because of the pandemic. I'd been like off and on teetering about like my Instagram handle, Muscle Geek Physique. And I was like, you know, I'm not training as much anymore.
Right, right.
I'm kind of falling back into that place of like, I'm ready to perform more. I want to be, you know, I want to sing, I want to dance, I want to do all this stuff. And it didn't align with Muscle Geek Physique. And so that's where the House of Reese was born. And that's the new handle, spelled Haus.
Right.
Because that wasn't taken. And
it makes it sound like a fancy house. You should add an apostrophe.
Yeah. You have to say house. Yeah. House of Reese. So that's where that was born. Because like I can take everything that makes me Power Rangers, cosplay, performance, Broadway, just everything, you know, crazy tangents about, you know, me on Instagram filters, and just turn it into me. And so that's where it all kind of like went to from there. But Muscle Geek Physique was an LLC. And it was a full-blown business for 5 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, looking at your performance background, you already have an idea of the industry. But of course, the industry has changed since you were full-fledged into it. So what are your ideals now going into, you know, 2020? Now there's going to be social distancing. There's still stuff filming and people are still doing auditions for stuff. So where's your mindset now with all that going on?
Yeah. You know, it was strange because at the end of 2019, I was in Louisiana filming a show, like a movie. And I was like, is this what I want to be doing? Like filming, does that like satisfy the itch?
Right.
It just doesn't, you know, being a stage actor versus like a film actor is so different.
Right.
You know, I have to give like a huge kudos to people in film because you have to be able to turn on that character like that.
Yeah.
And feel the emotion, even if it hasn't happened yet or you haven't filmed it yet, you have to feel that emotion like so real. So it's been like this long time coming to where I wanted to get back into it. I wanted to start singing again. And so now what it's coming down to is I've kind of dedicated, and like back, you know, at the end of 2019, I was like, you know, I'm going to dedicate 2020 to my health, my voice, and basically just rebuilding that resume, you know, which I mean, whenever you go into a safer from home, I don't want to say lockdown, but safer from home, it's pretty easy to find time to, you know, sing to yourself 3 hours a day and to, you know, to work out and to get ready for it. My goal would be to hit one of the biggest shows that like I grew up loving. You know, I've done some bigger productions, but like I've auditioned for Phantom of the Opera a few times. Every time it was you're too young. I'm like, well, I'm significantly older now.
Yeah, I'm here.
So it'd be nice to kind of hit into that realm. The thing that does kind of bite right now is that you don't know what the future of like Broadway or the West End or touring companies looks like. I mean, there's only one show in the world that's still currently produced, like that's currently playing, which is Phantom in Seoul, Korea.
Right.
And it's like, I don't think they're looking for a new Phantom right now.
Right. So what would you say to that young man or that young lady that's out there and they're saying, I want to perform, or that kid that's just watched about a season of Glee and like, yeah, I can do that? Because that's where a lot of talent comes from, that kid or that person. They're just watching, they can watch something and then just go out and do it, but they're not sure.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the biggest thing is if you want it, you have to do more than dream about it. You know, you have to be hungry, you have to go for it. But here's the thing that I would tell anybody is that Be prepared. Be prepared to be broken up with a lot.
Yeah.
No, it's going to become like a safe word, and it's going to happen a lot. You know, in the industry out in New York, they'll tell you you're going to go to 100 auditions before you make one callback. You're going to go to 200 auditions before you get 2 callbacks and you make that actual show. You know, and sometimes it's even more. You have to be able to like flex real quick. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable and know that just because they don't like you're not a part of their vision right now doesn't mean you're not a part of someone's vision. You just have to stay hungry for it. You have to keep going after it.
So we got into the performance part, and I definitely want to come back to that. But where did your love of Power Rangers come from?
Oh man. So, well, I mean, of course, I think that's majority of people in like my age bracket, right?
Right.
Relic is where you start thinking
90s
like
kid.
it was MMPR, you know, like I was, let's see here. Oh man. Okay. So I was 6. I think I was 6 whenever Power Rangers first came out. Yeah.
Awesome.
I might've been a little younger, but I think I was 6 when Power Rangers came out. And I just remember being so enthralled.
Right.
Of course, like there was something about Trini and Zach that always had me like glued to the screen.
Yeah.
I loved Jason. I loved Billy. I loved Kimberly. But Trini and Zach being a dancer, and I was a little dancer, just inspired me to know that I could be, you know, I could be a superhero and a dancer.
Right.
And then Trini just being smart and like able to keep everybody glued together.
She had a flair too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like she was a fighter and she was brilliant. There were just like all of these things. And so my love for the show started literally because of those 2 characters and just watching them kind of progress throughout the show. And when the movie came out, that was it. Like I knew everything
shut down when that movie came out.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, I had to have every Pog. I had to have every McDonald's toy.
My McDonald's toys are probably still in a tub somewhere in an attic. Like, I need to go home and dig them out.
Yeah. I have like, so in my apartment here in California, I have like all of these boxes, not boxes, like they're like Tupperware bins.
Right.
Just like lining like this understair carriage that we have here. And people come like, oh, is that like all of your holiday stuff? I'm like, no, ma'am. No. That's all my Power Ranger toys.
That's all my Power Ranger. It's not lights and garland and balls to deck the holly with, ma'am. These are all
No, I've got old toys,
The cornucopia is not in here, ma'am. I'm sorry. Not sure if you're looking for a cornucopia. We don't have one.
Yep. I mean, if you want to throw some of these on a tree, I'll let you know. Some of these have been played with, possibly recently. That was it. And you know, it was after like Zeo and we started going to like Turbo, I started losing like the passion that I had for like MMPR.
Right.
But then I was also introduced to like the Sentai. And the Sentai is what kept me going up until this day. I'll watch a Sentai any given day. Love that stuff.
Gotcha. And the thing about Sentai, it's really evil. Like, my first introduction to Sentai was like, that I went to a kid like, that's not what happened on Power. What is that? Why he died? Like, somebody explain.
Every season, people are dying left.
People are literally dying, not passing on powers and saying, all right, no longer can do this anymore. I have to give this to you. It's like, seen, dead.
The power passes on because they are 6 feet under.
I think the only Power Ranger series that really dealt with death in a way was Power Rangers RPM. And they explained it in the theme. It was like, a virus got out and destroyed half of humanity. And the only people left are the people in the city of Corinth. And it's like, are we glossing over the fact that everybody else in humanity died and all the people that live still are in this bubble? Like, can we stop and talk about that? Like, that's the thing on the internet. Like, we just glossed over the fact that everybody's dead except for the people that live in this bubble.
Yeah.
I think that's the only series that really dealt with that. And maybe Lost Galaxy, they dealt with death. You know, they actually had
there was a little bit, right? But I mean, they still had to bring her back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
you know,
like she's not
gone.
Dead.
She couldn't be dead.
She's a Force ghost now. She's a Power Rangers Force ghost.
Her, Anakin, I think they all showed up in the same episode.
Right. In the same scene and everything. And for me, of course, with MMPR. You can't go wrong with it. That's why I tell everybody, when I'm doing what I'm doing, you could not have told me that I would be sitting in my living room interviewing Power Rangers or interviewing them at conventions and seeing them face to face, going to conventions and they recognize me. And I think my favorite is Karen Ashley. Every time I see Karen Ashley, I go to her booth. And every time I go to a con, I take a friend with me that's never been to a con before, because I go in with press badges. So we get a little nooks and crannies and places that everybody else doesn't go. And I'll go to her table and my friend will be like, "Hey, that's Karen Ashley." Like, oh man, this is gonna be so exciting to meet her. She's sitting at her table like this. It's a running gag that we have, but it's like the realization that that's real. Watching and seeing those people that you saw.
Yeah, they're there. They're right there. Flesh and bone.
Who were the first Rangers that you met?
The very first Ranger I met was actually Steve Cardenas.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun. Like that, I was like pumped to meet him. Of course, the second Ranger I met, I think is everybody's either first or second, but it was JDF because he's everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can't go to a convention and him not be
everywhere.
There. Yeah. He is at every convention. I don't care what the convention's about. It might not even be about comics, right? It could be it could be an ovary convention. He will find a way to make an appearance.
and it's always going to be that humble explanation. Yeah, guys, I support the women and what they go through, and I'm just here. I'm here for the fans. Like,
right?
What fans? Like, and
they don't know who you are.
We don't know who you are, sir. But I think I got my funny story about Steve Cardenas. I met him at Ranger Stop and Pop in Atlanta last year. And a friend of mine, John Anderson, is an actor. He's done a lot of background work and work in a lot of different projects. Like every time I watch something superhero sci-fi related, there's John, because you can't miss him. He's humongously tall. And it's like, yep, there goes John again. I'll call him like, so you're going to tell me you're in Stranger Things? And I'm sitting at home one day. I had a bad day. And he video calls me. I was like, I'm not like John to video call me. He normally call me on the phone. He was like, hey, man, what are you doing? It was a Friday, so it was a convention weekend. I was like, no, I'm doing nothing, man. I'm just sitting there watching a little TV. He was like, I got somebody want to talk to you. He passed the phone to Steve. And I guess Steve didn't know who he was talking to, but when Steve looked at the camera, he was like, hey, guy. Like, I was like, whoa, Rocky's calling me on a Friday? Like, it doesn't get any better. So, yeah, but definitely JDF is everywhere. Everywhere. The man is everywhere.
You cannot miss him. If you want to meet him, you will meet him.
Just park at a con. Even if the con is 6 months from now, I guarantee you he is signed up for it.
Yeah.
So
he's something else. But I feel like there's just so many awesome Rangers. Like through Muscle Geek Physique, I got a chance to train like David Felding. I was a trainer for him for just about a year, so I was a personal trainer for him. Worked with let's see here, Justin Nemo. Yeah, he was phenomenal. Outstanding. And of course, like you said, Karen Ashley, she has such a infectious personality. Yeah. Like she genuinely loves people. Fans or not, she loves people. And Nakia Burris, like she's awesome. Energy. Awesome. And I have a lot of energy. Like I'm not allowed to drink coffee, right? But she has got a lot of energy.
Definitely. So going back to your performance, and I know you said you want to get into some big shows, some more things in California. How was the scene different in California from the scene when you were originally in performance?
Yeah, so I mean, California is really not the place if you're looking to break into, musicals. But this is where my current passion job has brought me. The thing that's really different now than back in like when I was on Broadway in 2007 is that there's more ways for people to make it into auditions. Mm-hmm. Back then, if you weren't already equity, and it's still kind of the same thing, they have like the actors equity, and it's like it's like a catch-22, right? It's like you can come to this audition if you're equity, but you have to be a cast member in a show already to be equity, but you can't get equity unless you're a cast member.
Right. So it's like, I understand everything you just said just now, because our previous episode, I have a young lady I went to high school with named Nikisha. and she's currently on Broadway. She's doing Hamilton right now. Prior to that,
I watched that episode.
She
yes,
did
yes,
Color
yes.
Purple, and I was asked her those questions like, "What does that mean? I've never. What does a company mean?" And she broke that down. So when you were talking to Eckler, I was like, "Yep, I know what he's saying."
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, there used to be this commercial. I think it was like an ITT Tech commercial. I don't even know if ITT Tech still exists, but it's like. Right. I couldn't get a job because I couldn't go to school. I couldn't go to school because I couldn't get a car. I couldn't get a car because I couldn't get a job. You know, that's what it felt like. And nowadays, there's a few more ways that you can, you know, get on with like guilds and unions that make it just a little bit easier.
Right.
The one thing that, you know, because there's always got to be like a bright light, regardless what the I guess like the terror of the time is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the bright lights is that a lot of the national tours right now. They've stopped touring, and what they're going to do is they're going to be recasting, but they're not going to be recasting as equity shows.
Right.
So there's a lot of shows that are going to be coming back that are going to give a lot of like budding, you know, singers, dancers, actors, or maybe even late in life performers, the opportunity to come and actually see what an audition like that looks like. You know, my goal is to, by the beginning of next year, to potentially go out there and audition for, you know, one of 3 of my passion shows. And those are like the 3 that I would do if I choose to ever like leave my current job and leave my current estate.
Right.
That's the big dream right there, is to do something or to be like making one of those shows that I've watched since I was just a little tiny thing that really brought the magic to my life. Like those are the shows I would be apt to get into now.
And just to get an explanation for me to understand, you said a lot. It's going to be a lot of openings for people. Would it be because of everything that's going on with COVID, and you have people who say, you know what, I can't hang on for this. I'm just going to go on to something else, and that's what kind of opens the door.
Well, what happens is like in this case, you know, with you know, coronavirus or COVID-19, they ended up closing down the shows altogether, which means at that point in time they let go of the current casts and they cut contracts. You know, so those contracts being cut, they were all productions that were equity productions. Now a lot of these productions are coming back, and because they don't have that equity behind them anymore, they can do this as like a non-equity show, which means anybody, regardless if you have that card or not, can actually go and audition for those shows. So if you're somebody who's looking to get in, keep an eye out. Answers for Dancers is a great place. Playbill.com is a great place. Both of them will show you like where the actual like magic is going to be taken. And a lot of these places right now are actually looking to do auditions through platforms like Zoom and FaceTime and things like that. It's a pretty crazy world we're in right now.
Oh yeah. Even with me having marched in a collegiate band, like in the band world, they're doing band auditions on Zoom and virtual auditions. And it's like, wow, you're looking at these major colleges and universities like, hey, you want to interview, you want to be in our band? Call us on Zoom with your horn ready. We'll give you a scholarship. So guys, you heard that, and to paraphrase Arthur Reed from the Great 90s Show, it's not that hard if you don't have an equity card. Just go ahead and audition. One question that we always ask on this series is, what do you think about the word consistency?
Which word?
Consistency.
Oh, consistency. You know, people say it's key, I guess, but I think the biggest thing about consistency is without it, that you actually end up losing sight really quick. You know, without consistency, you start to overfill your plate, you start to underfill your passions, and you completely deplete your emotional like savings account. Without consistency, you'll never make it to where you want to be. You know, they always say a helping hand is always great, and someone's always going to be there to guide you to your next place. But if you don't ever take the time to actually get yourself where you're going, your life is always going to be about something else, somewhere else, and never you. So it's all about staying consistent with your passions, your drives, and anything that you want to achieve.
That's beautiful. And that's, you might want to trademark that, emotional savings account. Like that hit me on the second bar, like, damn, like it made me want to leave here and go check my emotional savings account, Thomas. Like, how am I doing? It really, seriously, that literally for that split second you said that made me think like, am I okay? Maybe I should.
Yeah, you ain't got nothing else to spend on anyone else.
Check your emotional savings account. Don't spend your money. Don't put bad friends in your savings. Don't put bad jobs in your savings. Oh, you need to write a book. Write a book, James. Write a book.
That's what it's going to be called.
Emotional savings
How is your emotional savings account?
Then you got an ATM with a sad face on it.
And no money.
No money. Unplug. You made they had it even worse. Unplug the ATM from the wall. But man, I really want to thank you for coming on today and talking with us. Please let everybody know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait to see everything that you continue to do. You are a guiding light to so many people, not just in the Ranger community, but to just keep up what you're doing, because we all see you. You're doing fabulous things with this show. For you know, man, you'll be looking at contracts as well with that emotional savings account being full.
Man, I'm ready. I'm so ready for whatever we got coming up next, man. But let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
So you can actually find me at the House of Reese at on Instagram. That is the HAUS of Reese, REESE. Of course, once a month we will be doing productions with different performers and singers from around the world to promote awareness for the arts, as well as to promote different nonprofits. So you'll be able to learn about a new nonprofit every month and see some amazing vocalists, dancers, comedians, and actors once a month. Be sure to follow us, because that is where you will find everything that we're doing. That's
beautiful, man. Guys, you know who we are. We're Fandoms Anonymous all over social media, right here on YouTube and Facebook. Where you're watching this, go ahead to Instagram, and we do the TikTok thing too. I think most of the time we just watch TikTok more than doing TikToks. But hey, it is what it is. Don't think I can spend 20 minutes a day learning dance moves. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But man, thank you again, James, and we'll see you guys in another video.